a delay on this show? I just thought about this now as I'm using my laptop as a monitor so I can have a look at the chat as we're airing here. I don't know, I've always worked with a delay, certainly in television. Although sometimes the delay is a lot smaller amount of time than people think that it is. Sometimes in some situations, broadcasters will tell you they're working with a delay, but they're really not. I'm curious, we have a delay on the show. Zach, do we have a delay on the show? Not that I think it's going to go off the rails by any stretch of the imagination. Mike Grinnell is aboard from Spit and Chiclets, or should I say the owner of the Greensboro Gargoyles is aboard, and also Stephen Brunt will talk to us about the his latest edition of Up Close, this one with Adam Copeland, who many will know better as Edge, from WWE, where he used to ply his trade. So I'm going to play a clip from his latest interview as well. But do we have a delay? Like, do we have like a dump button? Like if something just goes, and I don't even know what we could possibly say here at Daily Faceoff that would make you go, ooh, that's too much.
Like Wish's comments yesterday about McDavid, and I just dumped him.
No, you just
no,
decided
we don't
to
have a dump.
You just decided to fire that out on social media and light everybody in Edmonton ablaze. Like it's funny. I was saying to someone last night, Wish did to Edmonton what Elliott normally does to Vancouver. It was just like, poof, let's just pull a pin, roll it in, and then walk away Joker style.
Yeah, that was on me. I did do that clip, and I did do that. And like,
Awesome.
I kid you not, Jeff, within maybe 3 minutes of me posting it, I went, oh no, Wish. And I was, because it was just my phone blowing up. I'm like, I did this to him.
Did you turn your notifications off?
Yep, I did.
Did you have to after a while? So like, okay, yeah, no more of this. Wow, nerves are
wasn't
close.
Even people getting mad at me, and I was like, I can't do this.
Nerves are close to the skin around that one, eh? Suggest for 1 second that, maybe we should, maybe. No. July 1st, 12:01, there'll be an announcement of a very sophisticated 8-year deal.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I digress. We have a lot coming up on the show
button.
today. No dump? We have no dump, eh? So I can pretty much say anything right now. I mean, mind you, I might just
pretty much.
As we like to say in life, and not just in broadcasting, Zach, you'll realize this at a certain point of your adulthood. You can do anything in life once. Life affords you the chance to do anything, no matter what it is, once. So there's a certain amount of sort of self-censorship that goes on with a show like that. But I was just thinking about that a second ago. Like, what could I possibly say here that would make Zach go, oof, we got to get off here? Or maybe it's above. Maybe it's like Amel Delich, who has gone from being my podcast producer now to my boss. Like, is there something that where Amel could just like pull the plug and then that's it? We're done. Yeah. Forget it, Marek. There's pink paper in the fax machine. Go collect it. I know some of you youngins may not know what a fax machine is, but nonetheless, I'm dating myself once again. Okay, here's what I want to talk to you about, and our audience, either listening, watching, or in the chat right now, and the guys from Small Town Strip Club, by the way, who do the theme song for the show, are in the chat right now. Sheethead's reporting for duty. That from Small Town Strip Club. Vic is aboard from Morning Cup of Hockey. We have some Morning Cup of Hockey love coming up in a couple of moments here. But I want to talk about someone who you may have never heard about before, but this person has taken one of the most iconic photographs in the history of hockey, who passed away at the age of 91. Heinz Klutmeyer passed away, who took one of the most iconic photographs of all time. It's just one of those things that captures an entire moment for an entire sport. And this was 1980 and the Miracle on Ice. After the semifinal, look at that picture on the cover of Sports Illustrated. That is just such a beautiful celebration of emotion. Now, hold on to that one for 1 sec, Zach. So condolences to the Klutmeyer family on the passing of Heinz, one of the great sports photographers of all time. As we talk about things like the Mount Rushmore of hockey, and on Daily Faceoff Live today, the guys were talking about their Mount Rushmore of hockey for goaltenders. I'll throw you mine just for giggles. Dominik Hasek, Jacques Plante, Terry Sawchuk, and Patrick Waugh. That would be my Mount Rushmore. Discuss amongst yourselves. But I thought it might be interesting, and I wanted to come back to one point, and this is a conversation that I had about 20 years ago about this photograph and about the Miracle on Ice in 1980. these to me are the four greatest hockey photographs that I've ever seen, in no particular order. Zach, just fire them up here and I'll describe them for the audience if you haven't seen it before. Now, this may be my favorite photograph of all time in hockey. This is 1951 Stanley Cup winner Bill Barilko, defenseman for the Toronto Maple Leafs, scoring the game-winning goal against the Montreal Canadiens. Jerry McNeil is the netminder. Rocket Richard has his mouth open. He's like, oh my goodness, look what's happening here. But what I love about this photograph is this is the moment right before the goal goes in. This is the moment before the moment. It is a perfect slice of hockey time. Look at the fans in the back. It hasn't gone in yet. But in a split second, all those fans are going to go crazy. But it's a beautiful shot. Jerry McNeil's falling backwards. Barilko is diving. We're going to get to another diving defenseman here in a couple of seconds. To me, this is the greatest hockey photograph ever taken. Nat Turovsky, the great Nat Turovsky. Maybe that name will come up a little bit later when Stephen Brunt comes aboard. Another one, fire up another on my Mount Rushmore of hockey photographs. What do we got here? Okay, Ray Lucier. This is the 1970 Bobby Orr goal. It's great. It's on Glen Hall. It's overtime. Derek Sanderson had just passed the puck out front. Bobby Orr dipping down low, scores a goal. And because, just to be blunt, he was a prick when he played, Noel Picard says, I'm going to trip this guy. And he trips Bobby Orr, who dives through the air, giving us one of the most iconic hockey moments of all time. And Ray Lucier with the great photograph on this one. This goes up pretty much on everybody's Mount Rushmore of hockey photographs. Do we have the one with Rocket Richard and Sugar Jim Henry from 1952? This to me is, as much as we talk about, there's no respect in the game and blah, 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 blah. This to me is like the ultimate sign of respect. This is a bloodied Rocket Richard, who I believe had left the game earlier, was probably concussed. Sugar Jim Henry had his eyes blackened and his nose broken in this game as well. This was the handshake at center ice. Yes, Handshake Alley, after the Montreal Canadiens defeated the Boston Bruins. That would have been the semifinal in 1952, and the Habs were off to face off against the Detroit Red Wings in the Stanley Cup final. But here's a point that I want to make. And you're wearing a hockey jersey right now. What jersey is that you're wearing right now, Zach? What is it? What are you wearing? Oh, the North Stars. Mike Modano. Yep. That is a
you know what it's got, Jeff?
What's up? Fighting strap.
Fight strap.
Okay, how many fights did Mike Modano have? If you want to really, by the way, if you really want to be a Modano hipster, you got to wear the Prince Albert. You got to go back to when he played in the Western Hockey League with Prince Albert for that's the one for the reals. Okay. But good for you from Mike Modano from Livonia, Michigan, where half my family exists. I spent a lot of time in Livonia, Michigan. Also, Tori Kruger's from there, Ryan Kessler, etc., etc., etc. Dr. Alicia Nasser, who's going to be on the program in a little while. She's also from Livonia. Now, go back to that Miracle on Ice photograph. So this is 1980, right? This is like the biggest upset in the history of hockey. This team, this game, these moments, this photograph on the cover of Sports Illustrated spawned a generation of hockey of American hockey players. Like from this comes your Mike Modano, for example. Your Joey Mullins, your Jeremy Roenick's, your Chris Chelios's. Like so many American kids looked at that photograph, saw that game. Those guys all became heroes, and they picked up hockey sticks and said, I want to play hockey. And about 15 years ago, I had a conversation with someone about jerseys. And the point that this person was trying to make to me is, he didn't think that there was one game in the history of hockey that left more potential merchandise sales on the table than that game. Okay? This is 1980, Miracle on Ice. No one's selling jerseys. No one's selling shirts. No one's selling hats. Nothing. If that happened now, like that level, and that's in Lake Placid. I was there last year at one of my kids' tournament. It is a marvelous place, and there's a marvelous hockey shop there too. By the way, Mike Rugioni texted the guys at Morning Cup of Hockey. He's going to be going on the program. That is very cool. But can you think of like one other event that it was completely non-commercialized, bigger than the Miracle on Ice. Because if that happened now, everyone's leaving with a jersey. Everybody's leaving with a hat. Yeah. Everybody's leaving with a piece of something. But coming out of that game, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about it that way, but kind of are there other ones that you could think of around?
Well, you can think of you can think of 1972 with Paul Henderson, right? And he scores, okay. But how many Canadians were there? Because that was at Luzhniki. How many Canadians were there? This was like a barn full of American hockey fans.
Yeah.
Who all would have gone home with something. So much money left on the table as far as merch. Anyway, I just think it's an interesting sort of sidebar to all of this, that like none of that was commercialized until much later.
It did create my favorite movie of all time.
I was surprised at that that's your favorite movie.
No, it's the greatest movie of ever. That and Moneyball.
Those your two favorite movies, Moneyball?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Jaws is pretty good. I actually, you want to hear a quick story about Jaws? I actually tried to name our second son after my two favorite characters in Jaws. So
really?
Yeah, Brody, for Chief Brody, who I loved, and I got that one through. And then I also wanted Quint, and my wife was like, "You're not naming our son like your two favorite characters from just." We compromised on Quint, but I wanted Brody Quint from my two favorite characters in Jaws. And Zach, I was that close. I almost got it. Nonetheless, I digress. Okay, time now for Daily Outlines presented by FanDuel. That took longer than I thought it would. Presented by FanDuel, North America's #1 sportsbook app provider. Coming up on the show today, we've already talked about great hockey Hall of Fame photographs and the Mount Rushmore of hockey photographs. So that one's already been discussed. We can take that one off the board. As I mentioned, Mike Grinnell is going to be stopping by. You know him as Grinnelli from the Spit and Chiclets podcast, and now he's an owner. Now he's on the other side, so now he can complain about stick budgets and skate budgets and other things that hockey players do with the Greensboro Gargoyles of the ECHL. Brayden Point gets scratched, and Pat Maroon weighs in on Morning Cup of Hockey. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on. That was a hell of a game last night, and a rough one as well. We'll talk about the Calder race, and Craig Conroy, general manager of the Calgary Flames, had some interesting comments about how you should judge this vis-a-vis his goaltender, Dustin Wolf, and where he should rank amongst your Lane Hudsons, who had another great night last night with 3 points, and your Macklin Celebrinis. We'll get that off to you here coming up in a couple of moments as well. Also on the broadcast today, Stephen Brunt from Up Close and his latest with Adam Copeland. So Brunt's going to be stopping by in about half an hour time. I want to make a point about bag skates if we get a chance as well. If we don't get there, we'll knock it to tomorrow. But there's a couple of things, kind of like just a sort of heads up for minor/youth hockey coaches. We'll see if we get to that one. And anything else up for grabs today? Oh, yeah. I want to make sure we talk about the New Jersey Devils. Let's have a quick word about this one before Grinnell stops by. So I've decided who I want to see in the Stanley Cup final already, but only if they get there in one very specific way.
Okay.
I want to see the New Jersey Devils make the Stanley Cup final. And here's why. Like, I don't care essentially about hockey teams, Zach. I know you're a Leaf fan and you'd love to see the Toronto Maple Leafs get past the first round. The bar is so low.
That's my Stanley Cup.
The bar is so low. You just want to see him get past that. The bar is so low. But I want to see the New Jersey Devils get there, and here's why. It dawned on me last night as I was thinking about the games that I was watching last night. That was another really good one between New Jersey and Florida. And I'm saying to myself, some of my favorite games this year have involved the New Jersey Devils. Like the New Jersey Devils versus the New York Rangers. I want to see that in the playoffs. But then I always want to see the Devils and the Rangers in the playoffs just because of how much the two markets hate each other. And the teams seem to hate each other as well. And then I watched that home and home between the New Jersey Devils and the Carolina Hurricanes. And I said to myself, okay, no. I don't want Devils Rangers. I want Devils Hurricanes because I want 7 games of that. And then I watched Devils and the Panthers. And I changed my mind again. And I said, I want to see the Devils and the Florida Panthers in the playoffs. I said, damn it, forget it. I want to see all 3. That's what I want. I want to see them play the Rangers. I want to see them play the Hurricanes, and I want to see them play the Florida Panthers. That's what I want. That is in my hockey heaven this year, because the New Jersey Devils, unlike other teams, like Minnesota used to be this team. Minnesota would always in the Western Conference have great games with everybody. Dallas, they'd always have great games. I used to call it the Norm Green Cup, and everyone would lose their mind on me. But they had great games against the Vegas Golden Knights. They'd have great games against the Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers. And I'd say, like, I just want Minnesota to keep going on, because that style makes for great games, and we're seeing great ones in the Western Conference. That team now in the East are the New Jersey Devils. And that's what I want to see. Do you have a thought on that one?
Fair enough.
Do you have a thought on that one?
I think that's fair. I mean, obviously, you excluded the most important team that I'd like to see in the playoffs, but that's okay. I think that pathway otherwise is probably the next best thing.
I don't think there'd be any stories there, though. With the New Jersey Devils and the Toronto Maple Leafs, nothing's coming to mind. Just scratching my head here, having a little chin scratch about it. Like, no, I don't think that there's... I don't think
in all seriousness, I do think that would be like a pretty... In the two games that they've had so far this season have been pretty exciting ones to watch as well. So it's not like the games them haven't like lived up to expectation. We're going to get another one on Thursday here between them, but
yes,
I mean, watching Florida, Tampa, Boston going head to head again for 7 games, like what we saw last night. Those are matchups I want to see. And I want to see over and over and over again. And I think you said it yesterday, Jeff, where it's like you want it to just keep going. Like we talked about the Kings and the Oilers. Like Boston, Tampa, I could watch probably 80
That's another
times.
great one. That's another great one. It's funny, too, because, when the outdoor games were named, like, they got the teams wrong. Like, you want to see Florida and Boston, and you see the Rangers facing off against Tampa, and then you watch Tampa against Boston, and you're like, okay, yeah, now I get it. Yeah, now I totally understand. And we all know how the Viola family loves the New York Rangers, and there's a lot of fans, and Travis, the son, is a huge fan, as I've found out, is a huge Henrik Lundqvist guy, and every time the Rangers would come to town, it was a big scene when Sunrise. Anyhow, so I get that now. By the way, speaking of New Jersey, just as a side, not to get too hipster on you, but Jonas Siegenthaler and Jonathan Kovacevic are incredible. As far as if you're into like the whole hipster sort of, shut down, shot suppression, actually having the nerve to play defense, Jonas Siegenthaler, like, he's not going to be anywhere near like any of the points. Like, don't look for him on your stats sheets. Don't look him for your point leaders. But Siegenthaler specifically is having an incredible year for the New Jersey Devils. And I know there's a lot of players that talk about on the New Jersey Devils that are going to get more headlines than Jonas Siegenthaler. But go ask Sheldon Keefe what Siegenthaler means to this team. Go ask Sheldon Keefe what Kovacevic means to this team. That is a pair that are just wrecking top lines around the NHL. Like, nothing happens around them. Nothing goes to the net when those two are on the ice. It's remarkable. It's a great tandem. And I love watching Nico Hischier go at Matthew Tkachuk. So now I want that. Now I want them to face off against each other. Now that's the one that I'm all excited about. Oh, okay, the Carolina series is so 5 minutes ago. Oh, was I talking about the Rangers? Yeah. That was yesterday. Now I'm all about the New Jersey Devils and the Florida Panthers. That's what I want to see.
Jeff, just before we get to Grinnell here, I want to ask you quickly about the Brayden Point healthy scratching and what we heard from Maroon this morning, if you have any thoughts. Because last night, I mean, came as a surprise. I don't think anyone saw that coming. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning tweet out, like, right before the game that Brayden Point was not going to play, and just put it bluntly, due to missing a team meeting. And then it was Pat Maroon on Morning Cup of Hockey this morning talked about why. I kind of wanted to dig into those comments there.
Can we play it? Do we have the clip?
Yep, we got the clip.
Okay, let's do it.
Here's
Pat Maroon.
Coop healthy scratched them. Obviously, it was a big loss, and they probably needed those 2 points. Those 2 points might be costly down the road. Obviously, they're both fighting for that wild card spot right now, so it's probably a much-needed Brayden Point in the lineup that night. But like you said, Coop, that's what gets his team going, and I think Brayden Point understands, too, a little bit, too. Like, hey, listen, I missed a meeting. Stuff happens. I'm sure he won't lose sleep over it, but, it's something that Coop, holds his players accountable for it. But listen, if the player's keen, he didn't mean to, like, just, like, slept in, like, that's a different story, right? Like, not like he's out partying. Like Brayden Point was not out partying. I can guarantee you that. That's not who he is. I know for a fact. I think he just probably just slept in and missed his alarm. I know for a fact that's just the type of kid he is. He's just laid back, and he's probably just sitting in his room. He probably didn't know what time the bus was, to be honest with you.
All right, so that's by the way, the Pat Maroon stops on Morning Cup of Hockey are must watch. Like the show is like it's the best show, and those Pat Maroon segments are the finest. And the one thing that Maroon did talk about, I was glad. I think it was Johnny that asked them. They were talking about dad's trips and the infamous story with the Anaheim Ducks and the brawl. So Bruce Boudreau told me about this years ago, and I mentioned it on Chiclets when I was on not too long ago. And like, Gabby has always just refused to say who the parents were that got in a fight in the lobby. He just refuses to say who it was. And Pat Maroon this morning said, yeah, that was Nate Thompson's dad. So it was Nate Thompson.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, that was Nate Thompson's dad. I think he broke his hand in the fight or whatever. And Anaheim, for a number of years, canceled the dad's trip because of that. Just completely shut it down because the Anaheim Ducks dads were brawling. Anyhow, speaking of spitting chiclets, well, that was so 5 minutes ago for Mike Grinnell, because now not only is he of spitting chiclets, but now he is an owner. He's gone to the dark side, the ECHL's Greensboro Gargoyles, which, by the way, I got to say, Mike, was a very, very well-kept secret. Like, you guys sealed that one. I don't know how you did it. I don't know whether I should be envious or not as a media member that you're able to lock that seal so tightly, considering all the production that went into it. But first of all, bravo, congratulations. What does it feel like to be an owner and now have the right to complain about stick budgets?
Well, first off, I was just as shocked as you were that we kept this a secret. I think anytime we throw anything in the Chiclets chat that we have, there's a 50-50 chance Biz either immediately tweets it out or he says it on air while we're on air. So you really never know. But we're so excited. We're so excited. This is something I don't want to say I never really thought was possible, but it's just really something I never envisioned. And then when it's something that Biz and Biz's business manager, Jeff Jacobson, we have to give him a lot of credit. Mm-hmm. It's something they've been talking about for a long time. Obviously, Biz, two-time ECHL All-Star. He has the ECHL. He has a lot of ties to the league. It's a lot more sentimental to him. Sure. So he's always said this is something we need to get involved in. A couple years ago, we started the ECHL Player Relief Fund when COVID happened. Yep. And that was really, I don't want to say eye-opening. It was eye-opening to see how much Biz cared about it. And when we saw how much he cared about it, it was like, wow, there must be something here. So then we went and filmed the documentaries a couple of years ago where we went to Wheeling, we went to Orlando, we followed Derek Nesbitt around, the ECHL's Iron Man. Yeah. So it was awesome. It was cool. And yeah, we're just very excited for what the future holds. The logo is incredible. It is really good. I know you know Zoyer Sports, so we're very, very excited to work with Zoyer, Andy Kaufman. It's been a whirlwind of emotions. Yeah. Again, something I never thought would happen, but I'm very excited.
So snooping around about this this morning and making calls, you mentioned Andy. So I was told that he approached you guys about this one, that it wasn't the other way around. It wasn't as you had your shingle out and, hey, available to, we're looking to buy an expansion team or partner on an expansion team with someone. I was told that he sought you guys out. Is that true?
Yes, but there's also like Biz. We did a show I'd say a year or two ago, where Biz talked about our pursuit for an ECHL team and how it was something that we wanted to go after. Biz talked about it in the past. We were talking to Colorado Springs a year or two ago, and that kind of fell through. And then when this opportunity presented itself, it was something that you couldn't pass up. And yeah, Andy's team is just unbelievable, just an unbelievable guy. Like the first time I jumped on a call with him, I texted the boys right after and was just like, I love this guy, like the energy he brings. And obviously I'm a very, very minority partner in this, but Andy makes me feel like I have more ownership than anyone. He's just, and that's awesome. Like, I think it's really awesome just to feel a part of it. You know what I mean? Even though I'm involved in such a minor level, he makes me feel like I'm just as important as everyone else.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned Colorado Springs because in one of my conversations this morning, someone was saying like, yeah, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, the Chiclets guys were involved and it was going down the road. I think there was a building issue or something like that, and that sort of skirted the whole thing. But you guys still existed sort of in that orbit of, to your point, you know, in that orbit of, you know, one day this could come together, and when it presents itself, we're amenable. You know, I'll tell you what, Mike. Like, one of the things that I really respect about how you guys have evolved is, you know, I was having this conversation with Johnny Lazarus this morning. Like, I don't set goals. I'm not a goal setter. I don't say like, this time I have to have this happen in my life, and this time I have to have this happen in my life, etc. Like, I don't. It almost feels like I'm setting up a terminal point when I do that. I just like to get up, work as hard as I can, do my job, and sort of see where life takes me. And then every now and then, every 5 years, you kind of go like, well, I never expected to do this. I never expected to be part of that. And I'm sure, like, I know I can tell by the smile on your face, you're saying to yourself, I never expected to own a hockey team. But here you are. Like, this is almost like a Talking Heads song. Like, do you ever get a chance to pause and kind of go like, how did I get here?
Oh, it's perfect you asked this right now, because we did. So you've been a part of our live shows before, and they're spectacular. And we just did one in Chicago. And so in the past, I would say I get really nervous before these live shows. We've had issues in the past, you know, whether it's audio, whether it's the venue. There's a lot on my plate before these live shows. So I would drink a little bit. I'd have a few drinks, get a little loose before. And before this last one we did, I knew that Wayne Gretzky was going to surprise Biz on stage. So before he went in there, I said, you know what? I want to be able to remember this with every ounce of my brain. So I'm not going to have any drinks beforehand. I'm really going to try to embrace it all. So at one point on stage during our last live show, it was me, Ryan Whitney, Wayne Gretzky, Paul Bissonnette, Keith Yandel, and Chris Chelios. And I looked down the line. I took a deep breath, and this is going to sound crazy. I got a little emotional. If you go back and review the game tapes, you can probably see like my eyes water up a little bit, because I look out into the crowd. I look down the line, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm not supposed to be sitting up here. Like, how did I get up here? How did this happen? Like this, it's the undreamable dream. Right? It's something I'd like to say. The On the Bench guys told me that a couple years ago. It's the undreamable dream. It's not something when you're a little kid that you're going to be like, I'm going to be a podcast producer, and I'm going to be a partner in an ECHL team and a pink vodka. Like, that's not what I envisioned my life to be. But I couldn't be happier that this is the way it turned out, and I'm so lucky every day. And I think that's why I work so hard, is because I'm so grateful to be in this position. And I worked in the meet. Like, I didn't just fall into this one day. Like, I grinded. I did AM radio in New Hampshire when I was getting 10 listeners, getting paid $10 an hour. You know, I
know the days.
I worked at bars, and I worked for free, and weekend radio, and I've done all that. So it's when you've been on that side of it, it makes you appreciate this side of it a lot more. And it makes you work harder. It makes you never want to give this up and go back to what it was before.
Does it? I am curious too, given that like overnight sensations, you know, it's a 10,000 hour rule. No one's an overnight sensation. Like, there's so much that happens before you become an overnight sensation. And now, as an owner of an ECHL team, like, I know you always had respect for that league and the guys that have gone down there. You know, I was telling the story, Mike, the other day on the program here about Rory Cairns with the Calgary Flames. And here's a guy who was in the C group at training camp. And 2 years in a row, this guy doesn't get a single exhibition game. And then the Flames send him to the ECHL. For a lot of guys, that's the indication that it's time. It's time for me to grow up. And I know the hockey was fun, but now it's a time to go. And this guy never quit. This guy never got exhibition game in training camp. See, like all of it. Like he didn't do, and down to the ECHL, a lot of guys would be like, psh, that's it. It's a cheese toast now, man. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm never going up there. And it has to take like this incredible amount of mental strength. Say what you want about the skills and the physicality of hockey and all that, but just the mental strength to endure that and then make it back up and get your shot. And 2 assists in the game against Chicago 2 nights ago. I know we've seen a lot in hockey lately. I love the Alex Burrows story. You know, the guy that when, you know, he's the first sort of, and then Alex Burrows goes from the ECHL to riding shotgun with the Sedins as probably their best complimentary winger they ever had. You know, like, have you always had an affinity for the ECHL guys, or is it like now, since I've been in it and met Paul and worked on the show, do you have more of an appreciation for
much more
hard that is?
Yeah, I think when we went down, I mean, just talking to Biz over the year, I've learned so much more, because you hear especially when Biz was playing in the ECHL, that was the real time of the soggy subs, you know, long bus rides, all that type of stuff. So yeah, just learning that. And I'd say Derek Nesbitt, when we got to meet Derek Nesbitt, who played, you know, 20 years or 15 years in the ECHL, when we got to go down and follow him around, and you saw, like, he told us how he's not making any money, right? He's barely making any money, but he does it because he loves the game so much, and he wants to give back to the game. And then you go see, like, you go meet all the players in the room and how much they care about it as well. And it's just, there's something about guys that, like, they're doing it for the love of the game at that point. Like, it's not about the money. You know what I mean? They just love to play hockey. And I hate to use this comparison, but it's almost like club hockey in a sense. Like, I love club hockey, ACHA club hockey. Yeah. The kids who are going to these schools like Georgia and in these big SEC schools that they're not going to play college, but they're still playing at a very, very high level because they love the game so much. And they're paying a lot of their own money to do that. And I kind of look at that as the ECHL. I mean, it's just all about the love of the game, which I think is just so enamoring.
Okay, so let me ask you about this. First of all, I'm glad you brought up the point about doing it for no money. I hope that Riley Armstrong won't mind that I tell the story. But whenever Riley would come by, and I was working at Sportsnet, he'd always come by and we'd hang out. And I would always, I'm such a loser, Mike. I
love Riles.
I have Riles is awesome. And I was in the Philadelphia Flyers organization and doing great. And he's going to be an awesome NHL coach one day. But whenever he would roll in, like, I collect like dry fit athletic shirts. Like, I just like working out in team shirts. Like, that's, I don't know, it's always been, I just love it. And so he would always bring me like Maine Mariners dry fits, and I'd give him ties. I'd just be like, dude, take any tie you want, like anything you want off the rack. And he's like, oh, dude. And he would like leave with a handful of ties. Like, you're right. Like, these guys, in order to continue to live that passion, they sacrifice a ton, and the other thing is too, the family sacrifice a ton. Anyhow,
yes,
but
even like we got to go down. Like, we went down. I think one of the first ECHL games I went to was in Orlando, and they had like a hot tub by the rink, like right by the glass. And like me and Biz are sitting in the hot tub pouring Pink Whitney in people's throat. It was like an all-out party. And I was like, I love this. This is a blast. Like, I'll go to an ECHL game every night if it's like this.
It's cool. Now, speaking of which, anything you already have planned for the Gargoyles that you can share?
Nothing yet. I would say nothing yet. And like, to be honest with you, Jeff, like, Biz is the mastermind behind this. You know, Biz and Jeff Jacobson were the two guys who I'm so lucky that they included me in this. But yeah, Biz is really kind of the mastermind behind setting all this up. And like I said, Andy's been great in, you know, making me feel as involved as everyone else is. But no, as of right now, nothing planned. I'm just super excited to see the jerseys. We haven't seen the jerseys yet, but like, we got the logo. We got the logo about a week and a half ago. And it was, oh man, he's like, please do not send this to anyone. So like I have my mom texting, my dad texting me, my boys from home texting me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even show my fiance. I'm like, no leaks. I'm not being the guy. So yeah, it's been awesome. Andy's great to work with, but not much planned right now. Just kind of, I'm just enjoying the ride of being an ECHL owner, baby.
All right, complaining about the price of skates. Holy smokes, I want to see this budget. What are we spending on skates? This is ridiculous. We're going to sell the team bus. We're going to sell the skate sharpener. Okay, listen. Okay, look at that. We're just showing the Gargoyles logo right now. That is pretty sweet. Do you know who designed that? Do you know who designed that? Can you give them a plug if you know it? Because that's a great logo.
I don't know I think it's I don't want to get it wrong.
Is it someone from Zoyer?
They used a company, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not too sure. I just know let's credit Zoyer for now, and we'll say, Andy Kaufman. We'll credit him.
That's your guy. Okay, real quick, off the ECHL page, and congratulations again. That was a really cool news cycle yesterday, man. I was really happy for all you guys. That was a nice. I
still can't believe it, Jeff. To be honest with you, like it's one of those things.
Dude,
I don't think I'll ever believe it.
Dude, it's a victory lap for your crew, man. Like, take it. Like, enjoy it. You earned it. You got there. And it was a shock. Like, it's so hard to surprise people these days. I think everyone's so jaded and cynical. Like, it's really hard to surprise people. That surprised people. So well done. Like, you did something that's really hard to do these days. Let me ask you quickly about a couple of NHL issues. Then we had someone in the chat a couple of seconds ago, Big Willie Styles saying, Mike for GM of Boston. How do you see the Bruins right now? By the way, first of all, listen, Marchand and Pasternak and the radio story and all of that. I kind of look at the whole thing and say, and we all heard Marchand go after Rich quick, go right away, go after him. I look at a situation like that and say, that's a gift. It's a gift to the Boston Bruins because, as you well know, when you give players an issue to rally around, look what Patrick Laine said about Columbus, and then what happened to the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're beating everybody. Like, if you give hockey players an issue to rally around, like, just put a ribbon around it. That's a gift. Like, I know it's uncomfortable.
And Marchand and Pasternak have looked incredible.
They've been fantastic.
Looked incredible since it.
I don't think that he intended that's why he put it out there, but it's a gift, no?
No, it's absolutely a gift, and they've looked incredible. Both Marchand and Pasternak have looked awesome, and I just there's nothing like some mid-season bulletin board material. Like, this is just what the Bruins needed. They needed a little kick in the ass, and shout out to Rich Keefe for giving it to them because, this Bruins team needs something. It definitely needs something, and a kick in the ass right now was probably exactly what they needed. But I still think this team is a little off. They still have to make a move or two, but yeah.
I used to say that Jordan Binnington was the guy who was just like the one goalie out there who was just itching for one, and he had to have one. He almost had it with Marc-Andre Fleury. We're just waiting for him to have it. I think we should add Jeremy Swayman. I was talking to Pete Blackburn on the show a couple of days ago.
He had the glove last night.
It was so good.
He's always wanted one too.
It's like I miss that. Like the late Ray Emery, as I always make this point, like he loved it, and Ray Emery would like fight players. Like, here he is with Mikey Asamon here a couple of seconds ago, and there's a left from 23.
I love it.
You can see the smile behind Swayman's mask. I'm just saying, like, the Brayden Point is scratched in that one, and I understand why Cooper did it, and it's a rough game, and they're fighting for playoff spots, and people are saying, like, look, if Boston loses that game and Columbus wins, they jump over them in the standings, and Ottawa wins, and they would jump over them in the standings, and they're in that spot, and Columbus keeps on winning. Like, we're getting to the point now where every now and then we're getting those games that have, like, a certain playoff intensity, and I'm watching this thing last night, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you know what? The Atlantic is awesome. Atlantic is fantastic.
And you know what's great about that, Jeff, is Jeremy Swayman loves those type of games. We saw, like, he loves that play. Like, the bigger the game, it seems, that's when Jeremy Swayman comes to play. And I think everyone can agree, Jeremy Swayman hasn't had the best first half of the season. But these past two games, he's looked like a different goalie. He's stealing games. That's what the Bruins need going forward. If they can get the Jeremy Swayman that they had in the playoffs last year, oh my God, be worried. be worried out there, Big Willie Styles. You got to be worried because the bees are coming. The bees are coming. I'm telling you that right now. If Jeremy Swayman is playing how Jeremy Swayman should, like the $8 million goalie that he is, that he's looked like the past 2 times he stepped in net, I'm worried. No one wants to see the Bruins in the playoffs right now, Jeff. Nobody.
Right. No. The boys at Small Town Strip Club who are in the chat are saying Binner versus Swayman center ice. Who do you like in that fight?
Are you kidding me? I'm taking the American, the Boston Bruin. I'm not taking the guy who beat us in the Cup final a couple years ago.
I'm taking my guy from Richmond Hill. Damn it,
yeah,
that's who I'm taking.
The American, baby. I'm going the American every single time.
Okay. Nick Davis, we'll close on this one. I know you're busy. Nick Davis says, a Four Nations goalie fight or we riot. Give me that one on that Saturday night in Montreal. USA versus Canada. Swayman versus Bennington. Do it, you cowards. Put them in net, you cowards.
I'm not sure I've been as excited for something as I have for this in a long, long time. Like, Bell Center, Montreal, USA versus Canada. Best on best for the first time in almost 10 years. I hope you're there, Marek, because I can't wait. I think it's hockey porn in the highest degree at the highest level. I'm just so excited.
It should be fantastic. Look, congrats again. I know you're super busy. Thanks so much for parking like
Jeff,
half an hour with us today.
I could go all day with you. I'm never too busy for you. You're the king. You've done so much for us. You've always looked out for me. I appreciate everything you do. The Sheet is an incredible show. I love tuning in every day. So keep crushing it. I'm happy to join whenever you want. And I love you, buddy.
You read that just like I wrote it. Thank you so much for reading that just as I wrote it, Mike Grinnell. Congratulations, ECHL owner. Grinnelli, attaboy. Thanks,
Let's go, pal. Gargoyles, baby.
I can't wait to see the jerseys. Thanks, pal. You be good. We'll talk soon. There he is, a great Mike Grinnell from Spittin' Chiclets, and one of the owners. Zoyer Group is the main group, and Zoyer owns a number of teams. I know yesterday I was kind of running on a little bit about the Ghost Pirates. By the end, I was kind of like, am I talking too much about this? Am I kind of making this too big of a deal? I just love that logo. I love the look. I love everything about Savannah. I've always wanted to go, etc. But the Zoyer Group owns a few different teams in the ECHL. And congratulations to the guys. Like, again, like I say this legitimately. That was a real shock. And no one had any idea what that podcast was going to do. And when you look at when it started and where it's gotten to and all the things along the way, beverage industry, now in the hockey industry in an ownership capacity, nobody would have thought that for 1 second. And I've maintained this, and Elliot and I used to talk about this when I used to do the pod with him. Paul Bissonnette is the most powerful person in hockey. Like Gary Bettman, the commissioner, has certainly the most influence and directs hockey. Like the story about the old cliche about the NHL is, and this is certainly true, if the NHL sneezes, everybody else catches a cold. Like that's how much influence that league has, not just amongst itself, but amongst leagues, not just in the United States and Canada, North America, but internationally. Like that is the sphere of influence. But as far as a media member goes, as far as a media personality goes, there is nobody as powerful in this industry that can affect as much change or can get people excited about hockey games or playoffs or events, whether they be tentpole or just a Tuesday night at Nationwide Arena. Like Paul Bissonnette. He's got that thing. And what he's able to do, and all the guys are able to do, is one of the hardest things. And we're trying to do it here. And a lot of it's done through the chat, and the Morning Cup of Hockey guys do the same thing in their chat as well. And that is create a community. And the one thing that we used to do with the old MVSW podcast, we sort of tapped into this idea of there were a lot of people that loved hockey that felt that hockey never loved them back. And that's true of players, by the way. One of the best things that anyone ever told me said, my coach told me once that hockey will never love you back. Take whatever you can out of hockey. But there were a lot of people that felt like they were very much on the outside, on the fringes. They loved hockey, but they didn't really have a place to go. And I think that's part of the success of Chiclets. We tried to do that with the old MVSW podcast, and for this one as well. Try to create a sense of community and have people feel like they are involved. And those guys have done such a great job with the entire property and extending it as well. And we wish them the best. I hope they finish second. The Gargoyles to the Savannah Ghost Pirates. Okay, coming up, going to talk to Stephen Brunt here in a couple of moments. The latest up-close property will be available shortly. A conversation with Adam Copeland. And I just want to put this out right now. I'm not jealous that he got this assignment. I'm not jealous that it was Stephen Brunt that got to go to North Carolina, Adam's house, hang out with his family, check out his cool place and his Hockey Hall of Fame room. I'm not jealous at all that he got the assignment and I didn't. Oh, by the way,
jealous, Jeff.
What's that?
You don't sound jealous at all.
Oh, I'm not jealous at all of Stephen Brunt that he got that assignment. By the way, Joshua Leifer in the chat. This is a great one. Hire Bruce Boudreau as coach of the Gargoyles. Oh, I do like that one.
Yeah, that's too bad. I'm putting the recruiting. I'm putting the recruiting hands down on this guy to bring him to Toronto to fix this power play, so the Gargoyles can wait.
Ooh.
He's got another duty to fulfill first.
I like that one. And listen, Gabby was great on Chiclets not too long ago. Had some incredible stories of the WHA. Anyhow, Steven's going to stop by in a couple of moments. We have Steven lined up yet, or are we still standing by to get Steven on the
he's
program?
ready.
He's ready. Okay, so enough of my rambling on. Did I mention that I'm not jealous that Stephen Brunt got this assignment as part of his property with Up Close to go talk to Adam Copeland? Please welcome back to the program. Last time we had him on, we talked about his interview with Keith Pelly. This time we'll talk to him about his conversation with Adam Copeland. We want to play a clip from this. We'll do it at the end of the interview here, Stephen. Thanks, as always, for stopping by. Selfishly, I just like talking to you. So anytime you release anything, I'm dragging you on this property here. Really quickly, just talking to Mike Grinnell of Spittin' Chiclets, and now the Spittin' Chiclets guys have bought it, are part of the ownership group of an ECHL team. Once upon a time, this was completely foreign territory. Like I still have a lot of friends who existed, in a different era in hockey. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to Bill Waters about an hour before I came on the show today, and talking about the old times and times with Cliff and ownership and what it was like. The fact that there's a podcast now that it has become, I don't even know how big the ownership stake is, but has become part of hockey ownership. I know the landscape keeps on changing in ways that we can never imagine, but do you have a quick thought on that one? That all of a sudden, like a media property has now become minority owners of an ECHL team.
Yeah, well, if it's again a universe I couldn't have imagined at some point. Like none of that. Like not one bit of that. I heard what you're saying about Bissonnette though being the most influential guy in hockey too.
Yeah.
And you're right. You're 100% correct. And that is a massive shift. That's like the plates on the earth moving, right? Like it's not a crusty old guy at a newspaper or somebody on a national broadcast or between periods on Hockey Night in Canada. It's him. And I think, that is, it's all part and parcel of the fact that the culture, the hockey culture has changed, media culture has changed, everything's changed. Right. But, I actually kind of think, that's a good thing that he specifically is maybe the most influential voice in hockey, because I think, there's kind of an organic quality to that, right? It's not somebody preaching down from above. From the high church of hockey. It's a guy from within.
Okay. Adam Copeland. So I was texting with Adam today and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to talk to Steven, and not jealous at all. And you got to go. First of all, how is the place? I've always wanted to go down and visit Adam there. I still think of Adam as the guy from Orangeville. And whenever I think of Orangeville, I always think about making that drive and going to Eddie Shack Donuts. Like that's still how I think of Adam Copeland. How is his new pad?
Well, I got to tell you, first of all, when I knew I was doing this, when this came together, you're one of the first people I thought of, because I knew I'd probably end up with you. And and again, live audio wrestling, right? Like
bless you.
Yeah. So there you go. I knew, there might be an audience of one for this, but I knew who the one would be. there was that. It was super cool. Asheville, North Carolina. I've never been to Asheville. And it's still coming back from that horrible hurricane that they had.
Yes.
When we were down there, they had literally just the water had just come back. Like that, it destroyed the water lines and all kinds of stuff that happened that we don't think about after the news cameras all pull out of town, right? It took months, but it's a super funky little town in the mountains. Kind of like the best of America, like an American college town almost. It's got a great music scene there. There are cool restaurants. It's beautiful physically. It's kind of a nice old downtown. It's as Adam, I believe, referenced that, you get 5 miles out of town, it's all stars and bars. So, it's that. But in that little oasis of Asheville, it kind of felt like, I could hang with these people, right? And he's got a beautiful house, up on a hill in the woods. But like a real person's house, right? Like his kids' toys were all over the place. Beth, his wife, was there. We kind of shot the thing in the gym that's kind of built into a garage next door. But we wandered around the house. I saw his leaf room. His leaf room. I saw his rock poster collection. I saw his library. A guy who reads a book a week. Which was quite something. And I can't tell you how much I like the guy. Like, you're connected, so you know what I'm talking about.
Great guy, wonderful,
very cool guy, very very cool guy.
Now, did you? I can't wait to see this. Now, I did text. I said, "Did you please tell me that Stephen and you talked about Tony Condello's stories?" Now, Tony Condello is a legendary promoter in Manitoba, and the tours through Manitoba. Driving a van full of a dozen wrestlers, all weighing 200 pounds, over an icy lake where it could all end for everybody here. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Like, what was your main takeaway after spending a day with Adam Copeland?
Well, I love we're in this, kind of post kayfabe universe, right?
Yeah.
Which we've been in for quite a while. The ability to pull back the curtain and talk about how it works and how his he's mapped out his career and the different phases of it, working with the different promotions. Like his origin story is amazing too. You know that, right? Like a single mom, Orangeville, Ontario.
Yep.
Didn't have enough money to play hockey. The family didn't have enough money for him to play hockey, organized hockey. Watching Maple Leaf Wrestling on TV, going down to the gardens and hanging out on Church Street, at the door, waiting for the wrestlers to come out.
Wood Street, yeah.
Wood Street, sorry. And winning the contest, the newspaper contest, to get Ron Hutchison and Sweet Daddy Zeke, meeting his tag team partner in grade school.
Yeah.
Like how ridiculous is that? And in Orangeville in those days, what, 10,000 people, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And the two of them, Edge and Christian are, in grade 6 together.
Yeah.
All of that stuff, man. And he's at the tail end of his career now. He's got a couple of years left. He figures he's very happy in AEW. Like, seems to really love the whole Tony Khan thing. And talking to him about, okay, how do you complete the story? And it's all there, all of that's in, and I will not reveal it here. And he didn't reveal that in the pod either. But you know what? I was so fascinated by that stuff and dealing with a guy who was so smart and so articulate. I look with the interview that's on the pod. It runs an hour and a half because we couldn't cut it. We couldn't cut it, man.
It's he's a remarkable athlete. He's a remarkable storyteller. Like, he's just a wonderful person too. It's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned Sweet Daddy Zeke. Sweet Daddy Zeke, legendary wrestler, just passed away at the age of 91 on New Year's Eve. And I was texting with Adam this morning, and I'm like, "How much was Zeke around when you first broke in?" He goes, "He taught me how to do a drop kick," and he was 60 years old. And he did 12 of them in a row perfectly at 60 years old to teach me how to do. Like, I've always had a fascination with Sweet Daddy Zeke. He used to host a karaoke night when I lived in Toronto. A karaoke night around the corner from my place at a place called Mighty Mike's. And then whenever I go to the CNE, he'd be sitting out in front of his porch in Parkdale just with his guitar. He was a musician as well as country. And there, Sweet Daddy Zeke just on his porch. As people would go to the Canadian National Exhibition, I'd be going to the old Hockey Hall of Fame, and there was sweet Daddy Siki sitting on his front porch. I do want to ask you this thing, because you mentioned sort of the kayfabe days versus now. Like we both grew up, like when I grew up, it was, very much, the kayfabe days, and, you follow the wrestlers, at Maple Leaf Gardens leaving, through the Wood Street exit, and it would be all the heels going together to check into the hotel. It would be the baby faces all going at the same time, and they would never, ever mix. And, it was like maintain the fiction. I started this by talking about, podcasters becoming owners, of hockey teams. Back then, you look at that industry versus now, publicly traded, etc. What are your thoughts of what you've seen over the years as this sport has evolved?
Well, man, it's you remember the old ads in the newspaper used to say an exhibition of skill and science, right?
Do you know why they did that?
Is that a legal disclaimer? Because it is a tax thing or something? Yeah.
Because they were charging money essentially for a fake fight. So it was an exhibition of skill and science.
Yes.
So they always, that was legalese to make sure they couldn't be sued.
Which is the same reason the then WWF when they went to court had to declare that they weren't a sport, right? That they had to say we weren't entertainment,
tax
right?
issue. Tax issue.
Yeah.
In New Jersey.
Yes. So I keep thinking about the resilience of this, however we want to describe it, sport, entertainment. When I was a kid, you were just like, it certainly doesn't go back to like the Gorgeous George days, but it was, in the 50s where it was, unbelievably popular, early television, easy television, right? But through the 60s, through the 70s, and when kayfabe, kind of the idea of it, I guess the thing was, when I was a kid, it was always about, like the theory was the audience believed everything, believed it was real, right? Mm-hmm. You had to buy into this to enjoy it, and at a certain point you kind of roll your eyes and say, well, of course it's not real, and look at this. But the amazing thing is it didn't matter, right? Like that was irrelevant to people's enjoyment of it, and the idea, like the way people consume it now, and it's been a long time. The kind of I'm going to surrender, my disbelief here, right? I'm going to give myself over to it the way I would give myself over to a night at the theater or a movie, and just let it happen in front of me. I'm not going to sit there and deconstruct it, because that's not the point. I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to feel the feels. And one of the things talking to that I really enjoyed talking to Adam about was, so what's it like when you walk out there? Because he's a big music guy, as you know, right? So we talked a lot about kind of the rock star thing. Like if you're Eddie Vedder and you walk out on stage, what it feels like if 50,000 people are in the palm of your hand. But he talked about that moment where you feel what's coming back at you as a wrestler, whether that's love or hate.
Sure.
And both are equally a measure of success, right? If you're drawing heat, and the feeling that I've made that happen through this art form. Like it's got to be, it's incredibly powerful, and it works, and it worked for my father's generation. It worked for my generation. It works for my kids' generation.
Yeah.
And it will work for their kids' generation. It never goes away.
Yeah. And I always found it interesting too, talking to, and I used to always make this point when I did the old wrestling radio show that you referenced, Live Audio Wrestling. I'd always make the point too. I would always hate it when I would see, a wrestler on a radio show or TV, and they would do the interview in character. And I'd always said to myself, Stephen, if I ever had a chance, could you imagine this for 1 second? If I had a chance, if you were watching me today and I was interviewing Tom Cruise and I pretended that he was really Jerry Maguire, what would you think of me, Stephen?
Yeah. Well, but it was, you remember like Jerry Lawler, Andy Kaufman,
Andy
right?
Kaufman,
and what's the guy from ABC who sued?
Tim Stossel? Tim Stossel.
Yeah, because
with Dr. Schultz, David Schultz.
Yeah, said it's not real, right? And the guy hit him. So there was, but that was kind of, people believed that was fundamental to it, right? That you had to, you had to exist in that space. But it's, again, to me, it's so much more interesting to talk about the craft and about the
100%.
business. 100%. And all of the, and how do you work with this guy, and what was this guy like to work with, and talk about McMahon, and talk about the cons, and and talk about riding around in station
Tony
wagons.
Condello's van.
Yeah, no, it's
Manitoba.
It's so much fun, and Adam covers a lot of ground, right? Like a lot of years, a lot of different places. He tells a great story. The other kind of sort of childhood story was that you probably know it, was hanging out at City Line at City TV to see Bret Hart, and waiting to talk to Bret Hart after a City Line show with, I guess, Deanie Petty.
He was in the crowd, I think.
He was in the crowd.
Yeah,
and that's how he ended up getting invited out. Bret invited him out to, hang out with Stu and the family, and get tortured by Stu in the dungeon.
That's awesome. We're gonna play this clip. Listen, I can't wait to watch this. I can't wait to listen to this. This is gonna be 90 minutes of gold. Stephen, thanks as always. Oh, by the way, you mentioned you mentioned Gorgeous George a second ago. For whatever reason, when you and I get together, something always revolves around Muhammad Ali. So a lot of Muhammad Ali shtick came from a combination of Gorgeous George, I think Freddie Blassie as well. He would have probably
classy
seen
Freddie Blassie.
Yeah, classy Freddie Blassie a lot.
And Ali always acknowledged the Gorgeous George thing, right? He was a crazy wrestling fan, and the "I am the greatest" thing. Yeah, it's Gorgeous George, right?
Always comes back to it. Stephen, you're a delight. Thanks as always. Best of luck with this one. This is I'll tell you what, the Keith Pelly interview really raised some eyebrows, perhaps at our old shop, which was very interesting and good to hear. And we very much look forward to this one. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
There he is, the great Stephen Brunt. Up close, the latest, an interview with Adam Copeland. Let's play part of this interview here before we wrap up the program. Here's Stephen Brunt in Asheville, North Carolina, the home of Adam Copeland.
The first shows I read about was Monarch Park, right, where the first show, which was an interesting place to start. But I guess there were, because it's funny now, again, there's a lot of this local stuff popping up. There are these kind of micro circuits, right? Yeah. Which is cool. But so there were those opportunities, right? There were those places to kind of go and say, okay, I'm gonna try this out.
There were, but they're far fewer between at that stage.
Yeah.
It really, it's cyclical, right? It goes in cycles. And when it's booming, then that means all the little mom and pops start back up and, hey, we can run a show now and there might be fans. And for me, that was the only way to gain experience. And there was no social media to get a clip on for people to see. Like, I carried around a VHS cassette with a little promo music video showing what I did. And I would hand it to everybody on that show and just hope that, they didn't go, okay, well, that's competition. I'm not handing it to the promoter. Screw that. But that was the only way. It was just get tapes out, send tapes. So I would send tapes in the mail to any promotion I'd find the address of. I'd send it to Mexico. I'd send it to ECW. I'd send it out to BC, wherever I could, which is how we ended up getting, Winnipeg dates and how we started touring with Tony Condello and doing the Northern Death tours. And that's where all that came from. And then we got all of that experience from there and wrestling in a 10x10 ring after driving across a lake to get there. And it's minus 72 Celsius outside and you're sleeping on blue, gymnastics mats and eating craft dinner because the only place you have to get food is in the home ec room where you're cooking your own supplies and eating tuna. And
glamorous life, man.
Glamorous life of a superstar. But, would I be able to pull that off now? Hell no. But I look back at it now and it was so formative and it was so instrumental to
I can't wait for the rest of that. Now, all the details of where that's going to be aired will be in our show notes. I believe, Zach, correct me, it's going to be on the Leaf Nation page as well, right?
Yes, the full video of this one will be on the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. So make sure to head on over there, subscribe to the channel, and the full video will be up there.
That's awesome. Did I mention I wasn't jealous? That I wasn't chosen?
You didn't seem jealous.
No. Happy that Stephen got it. I mean, it's not like Stephen's already interviewed everybody in the industry of every sport. That's fine. Not jealous at all. No, I'm not that kind of guy. No. Try to chase jealousy out of my life. So very much. So again, like in our show notes, make sure you check it out. That's where you can find where you can watch/listen to Up Close with Stephen Brunt and his interview with Adam Copeland. 90 minutes, eh? That's got to be great. And I'm sure plenty of it's going to be hockey talk as well. All right, speaking of hockey talk, let's wrap things up with a couple of things here. And by the way, the chat is awesome. And I think we are, answering one of the questions in the chat, I think we're working on, I probably shouldn't say this in case we're not, I think we're getting sheet hats, or we're looking at doing sheet hats. Green. Zach, I know you're shocked about that.
Sheet head?
Yeah, well, that's what the reference is. That's what the reference is in the chat. I'm a sheethead. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on that one. I dig it. Like it's really sort of out of my control, so I shouldn't even sort of weigh in on it. I kind of like it. I know. I'm back and forth on it.
I like it.
Depending, ask me 5 minutes from now and I'll change my opinion. I would totally change my opinion on it. I want some morning cup of hockey gear. That's what I want. I want some MCH. Okay, anything that we're leaving on the table here? I know we always do. Anything we're leaving on the table here before we wrap up?
The one that I'm the most intrigued about is bag skates. You texted me and said,
so
put bag skates on the thing. I put it up there. I don't even know what it is still.
The only thing that I want to say about bag skates, and I'm not talking about like bag skates at the NHL level or the American Hockey League level, junior hockey, college, and all that, because you have the rink. Like, that's there for you. But bag skates in minor or youth hockey, I understand why they do them. But if you want to punish your team for a lack of energy, for example, not showing up for a game, and you're gonna stick it to your team as a coach, ice time is really expensive. Like, ice is super expensive. Ice is such an incredible cost for everybody. To me, and this is for youth / minor hockey coaches out there. If you're thinking like, okay, we didn't show up Sunday afternoon, Monday, I'm going to bag these guys for half an hour. Considering how expensive ice is, use your ice for team / skills training. If you want to bag your team, make them run the stairs after practice. Make them run the stairs. Ice is really expensive. Whenever I see it, and my kids have been bag skated tons. Well, last night, my one kid got bag skated. I get it, but I look at them, I'm like, this is really expensive punishment. This ice is so expensive. Yeah. Should we not just use that for drills and skills? Do we need to use like a $500 sheet or a $450 sheet of ice for an hour for bag skates? You know what I'm kind of getting at there? It's just sort of like for anyone, if you want to sort of spread that one, I'm sure coaches will be able to weigh in on this one. I should actually, you know what? I should ask Colby Cohen about it because he coaches, and I'm wondering if he uses expensive ice to bag skate kids on a consistent basis. I get that it's an old school punishment and coaches still do it, but I don't know, Zach, you're closer to actually playing than I am. Am I way off base on this one? Make them run stairs.
No, I get it.
Make them run stairs.
Yeah. I used to do, you want to hear what we used to do for one of the teams I played on before every practice? Yeah. We would have to do, actually a rink, the Aurora Community Center where the Tigers play.
Of course, yeah, Tigers play.
Yeah, so you know the bowl, right? You have to go, you'd go up the stairs, around the top, down the stairs, and then go over, back up, and around. And we do that for 20 minutes. Then we'd go on the ice, practice, and then bag skate at the end of practice. I was like, what am I doing? I'm going to die.
Is that when you played York Simcoe?
No. That was, I played a couple years in Aurora, so it was during that period of time. Yeah.
Wow. That's, that's something. You know, I remember having a long talk. Boy, I've had a lot of talks with trainers about this. I remember asking Matt Nickel, who works with the Ottawa Senators now. I first met Matty when he was working with the Toronto Maple Leafs as strength and conditioning coach. Matty's been around forever, and he's worked with everybody. And he's like, you talk about trainers that are in it for the right reason, Matt Nickel is top of that list. And then there's not even a number 2. It goes from like Matt Nickel to number 3. No offense to anybody. And I asked him about bag skates, and he said, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world, especially when you do it early. Like, get on the ice, you're going to skate, like, down and back, we're doing the Minnesota Mile, blah, 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 blah. That's from your favorite movie, by the way. We're doing the Minnesota Mile, Again. So all it does is train you to practice slow because you're tired.
Yeah.
And then you're going to play slow, and the coach is going to get mad again because all you've done is you've practiced slow, so you're playing slow. So then you're going to get bag skated again. And the whole thing just works as one reoccurring wheel that just goes backwards. I guess I'm saying is, if you're going to bag your kids, do it at the end of practice. Because if you do the beginning of practice, all they're going to do is play slow. And you don't want to train your kids to play slow. Does that make sense?
Enough. Yes, I'm in agreement with that. And also, I'm seeing the comments in the chat. Yes, I do know every word to the Herb Brooks speech. Yes, I can tell you everything. Yeah, yeah.
So if I put you on the spot tomorrow on the show, you could do this?
Yeah.
You're going to have to rehearse all night long for this one? Are you gonna have it like on a monitor?
No, like I'm pretty sure I could do it off the
it?
top of my head. It's more so like I would look at it one more time to just remember the order of how everything goes. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I could do it.
We're doing this tomorrow. Put that on our rundown for tomorrow.
Okay.
We are doing this.
Because I was gonna ask you, like, you don't want your kid to have the Mike Ruzioni, Winthrop, Massachusetts. I play for the United States of America. You don't want that moment?
It is a pretty cool moment. Like,
and then he's magically got the C on his jersey.
Sort of appeared. Appeared. The gods came down, and all of a sudden there was a C on the sweater. I don't know what happened here. I am looking forward, by the way, to the Morning Cup of Hockey guys getting Mike Ruzioni on. Although I think every question is going to be like, was that great or really great? Was that great or really great? Like when you did this, was that great or really? Because that would be like me, right? If I had a chance to talk to Mike Ruzioni. All right, a couple of things. Only 2 games on the go around the NHL tonight. Let's have a peek at them. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. Only 2. And I think it's because it's a TNT doubleheader night that we're getting a 6 o'clock Eastern start between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Buffalo Sabres at KeyBank. Then the Edmonton Oilers. Did I mention how everyone kind of went banana sandwich when we had a conversation about Connor McDavid?
Still getting notifications.
It's going to keep going all week, bud. It's going to keep going all week. They'll face off against the Minnesota Wild. Calvin Pickard starts for the Edmonton Oilers. Philip Gustafson starts from Minnesota there. If I'm voting right now on the goalie of the year, right, on the Vezina Trophy, and it's the GMs that vote on the Vezina Trophy, so whoever has the most wins gets this thing. Connor Hellebuck is still number 1. Number 2, I'd put Philip Gustafson. He has been that good for the Minnesota Wild, period. Anyhow, but I want to share a line with you really quick before I turn the recreation over to you to see what's interesting you on these 2 games tonight. A pretty quiet night around the NHL. Got a buddy of mine in Buffalo, as I was saying, like, the 6 o'clock start tonight. Hey, that's interesting. He goes, yeah, we get to see the Buffalo Sabres lose 1 hour early tonight. They are so cynical. They're so, and they have every right to be. They are so cynical in Buffalo right now, Zach. They're so cynical. It's bad. And Carolina Hurricanes are kind of good. This one does not look good to me on paper if I'm the Buffalo Sabres at all. But nonetheless, what's jumping out at you here? No Kirill Kaprizov, by the way, from Minnesota.
No. Oilers Wild, very intriguing just because of the nature of the 2 teams here right now, and Oilers fans watching the final games of Connor McDavid, so that'll be I'm just kidding. That's a joke. I am interested in the Carolina Buffalo one because, and hear me out on this one, I'm interested to see in what way Carolina decides to impose their will on Buffalo. Because they will. I think they will. But Carolina's this team that we've always looked at as this defensive group, and Rod has them playing tight, and they're not fun. They kind of have got themselves in the group of the New York Islanders of this not offensively gifted, maybe gifted is not the right word, but a team that generates a lot of offense. I think we're seeing the Canes kind of heading in a more offensive direction, and I'm interested in this one here tonight to see if they kind of go against the Sabres and say, 2 middle fingers and we're going to run all over you, or if they go in there and they're like, we're just going to play Canes hockey, let's win 3-0 and go home. We're coming off the Buffalo Sabres losing a tough one to a team that's got their own questions, and that is the Seattle Kraken. Things are awful there, by the way. We should maybe park some time tomorrow to talk about Seattle. Things are just terrible in Seattle. They go up 2-0 and they end up losing 6-2, and Lindy Ruff comes within a centimeter of saying this team is stupid. If you read in between the lines, he's just calling his team dumb. I'm really curious to see what the response from the Buffalo Sabres is, and it's tough to have a decent response or a good response against a Rod Brindamore team. We shall see what happens tonight. This one has all the makings of it's ugly again in Buffalo. We shall see. Anything else, or are you good, Mr. Mike Grinnell, Minnesota North Stars? I got jealous. You wore the jersey all day yesterday. I tuned into Morning Cup this morning. Laz is wearing a jersey, and I was like,
you had to get in?
I might as well get in on the action. I've got to wear a jersey. I've got
That's
some
good. If you get
hanging
any picks, like Modano's great. I love Mike Modano. I just still don't know how he made that jersey flap in the back. Like, that always freaked me out. Like, how come other players can't do that? I don't know what it was. Something about his body or his pants, or I guess in Minnesota they would call them breezers. Something about his breezers that just allowed the jersey to do that. But I can never understand how Modano got that jersey flap going the way that he did.
I'm going to be trying my best to emulate it tonight. I think I'm playing some outdoor pond hockey, and actually with in downtown Toronto with I'll just say, I think it should be fine to say, Pavel Barber. I think he's got a outdoor game going on here tonight.
You going to go?
So I'm head on out there. I think I'm going to head out there. 9 o'clock tonight.
With the Cobra Chickens? Is he going to be with the Cobra Chickens?
I don't know who it is. It's with my buddy. He texted me and said, we need bodies, and he sent me a screenshot and said who it's with, and I said, all right, let's do it.
He's an awesome guy. Tell Barbara I said hi. He's a tremendous dude. He's an awesome guy. Okay, on behalf of Zach, and we thank our guest, Mike Grinnell, Grinnelli, a gnome from Spit and Chiclets, now one of the owners of the Greensboro Gargoyles of the ECHL. Congratulations there, Grinnelli. Thanks for stopping by, pal. Thanks to Stephen Brunt for stopping by. Again, check the show notes where you can see his latest up close, his feature interview with Adam Copeland. That one looks like it's going to be awesome. It's 90 minutes, and as Steven said, we couldn't edit. We couldn't, what are you going to chop? What are you going to cut? This thing is so fantastic. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Chat's always, you can probably always see me on screen just like staring down and reading and giggling at the chat. It's always so good. Thanks to everyone in there. Thanks to everybody who's listening on the podcast, watching on YouTube. We're here Monday to Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. It is called The Sheet, and we're crossing our fingers for merch. We'll see. I think you would look good in a green hat. We'll see if we can make that happen. In the meantime, enjoy the 2 games on the go around the NHL this evening. Back tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern with The Sheet. Have a great one. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.